to speed things up, um, shortly before tea break, Joanna gave a very interesting keynote. And like I mentioned earlier when I was introducing Joanna, Luminate has over the years supported a lot of development and intervention in around the world. And specifically, what this Fireside would be doing is to, in some ways, get to know a lot of Joanna's thoughts on Luminate evolving work around the world and especially in Africa, and to see what is happening in the global south. And we will, as much as we can, talk about what opportunities are there for journalists, institutions here when it comes to the work that Luminate is doing. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you.
You would very soon have a taste of the popular Nigerian jollof. And I know we have a lot of our friends from around Africa, but they would also enjoy the best jollof ever in the world. So, a quick question. In Africa, Nigeria is the largest country, and I wanted to just ask about Brazil. We're talking about Brazil when it just came. I wanted to ask, what do you see between Nigeria and Brazil from your lens?
Okay, thank you for the question and thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to come to Nigeria and to Africa. And I will talk about Brazil not being a Brazilian. I am now a Brazilian. I got the citizenship, but as I said, I'm Argentinian. So as you said, the first similarity is about size. We have kind of similar size of population, a population that is very fan of football, both countries, and also a very young population. And in that, the Nigerian is younger than Brazil. Both countries still face a challenge of connectivity. So in Brazil, it's a little smaller, but we both have challenges, and both are very much users of social media. I don't know if you know, but when Twitter was suspended in Brazil because it was not following a judicial order, Twitter became a very boring place because Brazilians run most of the groups of fans, like Beyonce fan groups, it's run by Brazilians, and they were unable to use Twitter. So both countries are very much users of social media. That means we are very relevant for those companies because they make revenues, they have users, so big population that are very relevant for those companies. I think the other thing is Brazil and Nigeria are very relevant in their regions. It's not only the population and the size, it's that they are seen as influential in the region and setting the rules, the trends, and I see that, for example, in Brazil, what is happening regarding the regulation of social media is having a huge impact in the rest of the region. I have been less than 24 hours, so some of my impressions can be very at the beginning, but I have the feeling that Brazil is a user of technology and Nigeria is more of a developer. I've seen so many, watching TV, I saw so many things talking about technology, so I see that as a space for exchange. Right. So, and I was discussing with my colleagues, should we try to make, like, for example, pieces in a journal dealing with the same topic in the two countries, so we learn from each other. In Brazil, we just passed a regulation for the protection of children online that could be very relevant here, but here there's more development and can be an incentive for Brazil. So there's a lot that we could exchange. I feel we can exchange more, and that's why I came, and I came to stay for 1 week. And both countries are a priority for Luminate. They are the priority countries in each region. Right,
thank you. And I think you sort of spoke to social media, and 2021, Nigeria suspended Twitter. yeah, and it ran for about 6 to 7 months. So um, Brazil is the largest social media population in Latin America. Nigeria is the second largest in Africa. It's evolving. It switches, but that's that layer of work. So you touched on all of those even in your keynotes. You spoke to protecting people online. You spoke to, and that's very relevant to Luminate work in the last couple months. I mean, the new strategy. So I wanted to ask, why do you think conversations on technology, on data, on protecting people online, why do you think that's important or relevant now?
Thank you. Well, I think several of the speakers in the previous panel talked about data being the commodity of the moment. So I was very happy when I saw that the topic mixed data, development, and democracy. So data, and my perception, our perception is that we have been giving away data without being aware of the value and the need to protect it. So it's good that we put data at the center. At the same time, as it was in the remarks, we live digital democracies. That is not going to change. So we have data that is a precious thing that we have been giving away without enough awareness. We have democracy that is running in that space, in the digital space, on the social media. So now the question is what democracy can do to protect our data. I think that's the challenge we need to face. And in that respect, Brazil has been facing very big challenges. So and I think I came to work in this issue at Luminate because I dealt with an election, a presidential election, as the director of an organization where misinformation was a thing. So I said, I want to work more on that. And Brazil has been trying to pass a law to regulate disinformation, and there was a very violent lobby in Congress not to pass this regulation. And I used to I have the picture in my cell phone where it shows that in the search of Google, it was written, this bill will make your internet worse. It was very violent, very direct against the regulation. But the outcome is that now we have a decision by the Supreme Court. That is, I think, not exactly what the companies wanted, but that is really protecting the information ecosystem. So when we couldn't get it all by the Congress, when democracy was not working in Congress, we got it by the Supreme Court. And also, this year, amazingly, a new regulation for the protection of children online was approved. And I want to share that story because it's quite amazing. It was because the law that was general was not advancing, civil society organized itself to to talk about the protection of children online. And you know that parents are very, very worried about what is happening. It's so unfair that we are left with our kids with a cell phone and we don't have a stronger regulation. So there was a long process to produce a bill in the Congress, and this year in July, an influencer made a video of 50 minutes, 50, a very long video, where he showed how if a kid created an account on Instagram, it would be offered sexual content. That was called adultización. I don't know, growing up people. I don't know how to say it in English. And that video went viral in 1 week, 40 million views. So Congress we have to do something. And then this bill that has been prepared by civil society was ready. And it was approved in 2 weeks. Wow. So now we are moving next year. What is the challenge of the next year in Brazil is the implementation of that law. So if I have to leave a message is, data is the commodity of the moment. We need democracy to protect our data.
Right. I mean, that's very interesting, the example you're bringing from Brazil. And I think anywhere in the world, from a European region, from America, it's the same. Conversations are happening. I mean, on Wednesday we have a full day dedicated to looking at some of the issues. Nigeria is trying to gets across the e-governance bill. It's advanced stage right now. Nigeria also has a data protection act. So I think everywhere in the world there are just evolving areas of intervention on regulating big tech, ensuring that data becomes what we guard jealously. Because researchers have said that the same way government regulates infrastructure, all of those things, that they should also, in a way, have oversight on digital technology and what some people call digital infrastructure. So my question is, what role do you then think most people in the room, journalists, civil society, what role do you think they play in shaping the conversations about data and democracy for the future?
Thank you. I think several of the speakers in previous panel said several times how much journalism is the backbone of democracy. How we would know what is happening, how will we make truth to power without media, without journalists. But it is in a deep crisis, and we have been saying this for several years. And I read the Johannesburg Declaration of the G20, the Media 20, that is the civil society and journalists around the G20, and that already deep crisis has gone more intense. I think we were following the discussion in Australia about the bargaining codes and in Canada, and suddenly AI came, and AI made the search have the answer and not a link.
Right.
And now we have a new problem that we didn't have. We haven't solved the previous one that was about advertisement, and now we have this new problem. So it is. I don't see how. I think we have to work so people understand that a crisis in the media is a crisis of democracy. We will not have good functioning institutions if we don't have journalists watching those institutions and reporting about them. So finding the solution to that crisis is something we all need to be working on. And I think especially connected to AI, we have a new challenge. There is the challenge of the traffic to the sites, but also we have a challenge that is who is talking about what it is artificial intelligence. And there was a discussion last week where one of our grantees from Ireland sent a letter to the European Union and got the information using access to information laws that the European Union was saying things where the source was marketing pieces by the big tech companies, not information and research. And that is what is happening. If you pay attention of what we are reading about artificial intelligence, it's mainly what the big companies are telling us. It's always the same voices, and with due respect, mainly men from the US telling us what is the size of the challenge. So at the same time we work to ensure the survival of the media, we need the media to give voices to the people who are affected by artificial intelligence, who are suffering very, very discriminational prototypes and discrimination in the way they present our countries, who we are, what we do. And in Brazil, for example, Luminate has been supporting organizations that report on data centers. They made us believe that a data center, that data is processed in a cloud. And it's not a cloud. It's a huge building, noisy, very hot, and that gives work to very few people. We have a researcher who did a whole story for us on data centers. I said, okay, how it is? And he said, we don't know, because mainly we are not allowed to get into data centers. But what we know is that they're empty. So our countries it's true that we need to be able to process the data, but we are attracting data centers to process the data not for us, but for other countries, with the fantasy of development. We think that this investment will bring jobs. and they are empty. They are not bringing jobs. They have jobs. You have jobs to build the data center, but then it's a lot of machines doing noise, very hot, so they consume a lot of water to get cooler. So we need the help of media to report and to make people understand what are those infrastructures.
Right, that's a lot. I think if I were a journalist who wanted to start working on reporting on technology, I think, there are like 10 to 11 story ideas that you have offered here, and I'm sure that's enough for the next 2 years for just a single journalist to get on. Data centers, I was reading one report from COP just a few days ago, and they were reporting that countries that are advanced in generative AI development, their emission has gone more than 7 times bigger than last year. And for every question you asked Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and the likes, the way that they process the data centers gets heated up, and then you need a lot of water to cool them down. And I also read a report that says a data center, the water that it takes, it can power about 25,000 homes. But that's what we're using. So if we have journalists who can start looking at those issues, I think that then brings us to collaboration.
Yeah. So what we are looking also are people who report about the neighbors.
Right.
Like the people, if you are,
right.
you
who are
live close to a
garden. That's absolutely. And I think that leads me to the question on how do we foster stronger collaboration, in Africa, and what role is Luminate playing or wants to play in fostering collaboration between civil society, technologists, and media? What's Luminate doing? Or what will Luminate do?
I think there's a lot we can learn, and we can improve in the way we work if we do more exchange south-south. In a way, that's why I'm here, but so we are supporting the ecosystems where we work so it gets better integrated. So it's not only that Luminate give grants and support the partners, it also supports those partners to work together in the countries where we work, but also exchanging between the countries where we are. So in Africa, it's Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa, and the 3 countries have amazing civil society organizations working to challenge big tech and to create a tech governance for public interest with different profiles. I think the experience of the Commission for Competition in South Africa has been an inspiration for everybody around the world. Right. The litigation in Kenya, it is amazing, and we are also supporting organizations here like you who do amazing work in Nigeria. So putting those organizations together also at the regional level is central. But then there's a lot we can learn by exchanging between the regions. And for example, we are supporting organizations that work on market power, so that challenge the concentration of power by those companies. So we have different companies that are also locally indigenous grown, and a proliferation of companies. So this work on market power and technology is quite initial. So we are trying to put the organizations together, the ones to do it in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and in Latin America.
Right, that's a lot. I guess that will be the last question because I'm looking at the time. But you've said a lot. I'm just going to allow one question. I'm sorry. There are questions. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Please take it. Introduce yourself and your question. Can you please pass the mic to her, please? Sorry, can you get the mic to her? Please introduce yourself, your organization, and the question.
Good morning. Hello, Juana. Thank you so much for sharing. My name is CJID. I'm a human rights lawyer. So when they were reading your profile, I was like, yeah, you go, girl. Yeah. So here's my question, and it's something I've thought about because I work in human rights and digital rights protection, and I understand the concern for tech governance and the need to protect people online, especially women. I agree with you, women are self-censoring. But here's where I always get pushback, and I really like to know what you think about this, what you've heard about it, and what you're saying about it, is the fact that people say, oh, if you govern tech, what happens to innovation? What happens to investment? And that's something that has always made people careful, even within the Nigerian context, and having conversations around tech governance. What response would you give to that? Will tech governance interrupt or impede investment and innovation?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And that's the conversation they are having now in the European Union. The European Union is moving to weaken data protection using the language of innovation. I think that innovation means having more, new. And what we are seeing is concentration. We are seeing a very few companies, maybe 5, that have been running social media and now are also running artificial intelligence. I don't think that is innovation. So the argument is we need space for other initiatives to flourish. And it's a challenge because as human rights activists, we don't know much about economic law and antitrust. The fact is we will have to learn because there are rules within capitalism that protect innovation so others can flourish. So that is the direction of travel, is having new initiatives. So protection of rights and protection of data is also protection for competition. So we have new initiatives. And it's very important. We support SOMO, an organization in the Netherlands, that shows that those big companies, they buy the small ones that are running innovations, and then they close. There was a digital reading books in Brazil that was bought and then disappeared because they want to concentrate. So the mismatch is between concentration and innovation, not between protection and innovation. And I came reading a report that called what we have now monoculture, like soy. So we are being told that there's only one solution for all our problems. It's ChatGPT for everything, instead of having solutions that are rooted in our realities, in our capacities, in traditional solutions for the problems we have. So this is something I'm 100% convinced that protection of rights will bring innovation.
Well, thank you very much. And as you were speaking, you mentioned that no matter who you are, you need to learn and have the knowledge before you can engage. If you don't, then it's difficult to engage. There's been research that's shown that many people who use ChatGPT, they have declined in the critical thinking capacity. And you're saying that we should slow down and think about how do we balance things in a way that protects competition, ensures that innovation does not become concentration in the hands of a few. And Luminate is committed to supporting partners working on this in Nigeria, in Kenya, in South Africa, that's in the African region, and also in other regions of the world. Juana, it's your first time in Nigeria, and it's an honor to host you. We would serve you a very delicious Nigerian jollof for lunch. But you have done well, and everyone here is saying thank you for coming to Nigeria. A round of applause for Juana as she makes her way back to a seat. Thank you very much for here.
Much.
Yeah.